My name is Nick Floyd, and I'm a Magic the Gathering player. Over 25 years ago, I created a Magic variant I called the Dan Dan deck. 2 whole decades later, I renamed it Forgetful Fish and dropped it on the Magic internet community to little notice. It came as a complete surprise 7 years later when I found out the Magic community had picked it up. And most players call it Dan Dan today, which is fine by me. I suppose I'm one of those Magic players of old. I started playing Magic about a year after its initial release, which means I missed the days of unlimited Moxen and Lowtie by just a couple of months. But I was totally into Magic for more than a decade. I played for the entertainment value, but I also played for the competition. I have no hesitation saying I was as competitive as I could be growing up in a small town in the least populated state, and in my late teens I had a brush with competitive play at the national level. Magic the Gathering has been a creative outlet for me for most of my life, and I don't want that to change. And that's why I started Magic Storytime. Here I will tell my entertaining stories about playing Magic the Gathering over the years. And once I've gathered a following, I'll be able to retell the tales of others who send in their stories. So please sit back and enjoy Magic Storytime. Welcome back to Magic Storytime. This is Episode 2 The Intimidator Part 2. Just to recap from Part 1, it was the 4th round of Mountain Regionals, and I was undefeated, but I finally ran up against the 12-Night deck. The guy playing it was trying to intimidate me into making a mistake. He had taken a calculated risk and used Kervik's Spite, even though I might have my last Force of Will. But what were the odds? Well, not 0. But I got lucky, that's the truth. But it wouldn't be luck this second game. I was prepared for the 12-Night deck. So we both sideboarded and began game 2. It was the same opening. He dropped a Swamp, tapped a Dark Ritual and Black Knight. This time I believe it was accompanied by an Unholy Strength. I took a hit or two, but on my 3rd turn I dropped an island, tapped out, and played Knight of the Mists. My opponent looked at me with a puzzled look on his face, and then back at my knight, and then back at me. "Don't you have to pay an extra mana or sacrifice him?" "No," I said. Then I spun my knight around so he could read it a bit easier. I gave him just enough time to read my Knight of the Mist, which reads, 2 generic and a blue, flanking. When Knight of the Mist comes into play, pay 1 blue or bury target knight. That's the text as printed on the card in the 90s, but hopefully you can understand what it means in today's Magic rules speak. I'll have both the original card and the Oracle rules text in the description. Then I reached over and tapped his Black Knight with my finger, saying, "I'll destroy it." That guy. My opponent threw his head back and howled at the ceiling. "Ah!" writhing in his seat. I made short work of him that game, and he was not pleased. Funny thing was, I thought Knight of the Mist read that way too until I was preparing to take Big Blue to Regionals. I just thought Knight of the Mist had a drawback for Limited, as the only blue flanking knight. But nope, looks like it was designed as a foil for a knight-heavy meta. Sad day for my intimidating opponent. When we filled out our match slip, he put that he had won 1 game and I had won 2. And I had to stop him and say, "No, I won both games, I swept." He started to grumble and argue that, "I won the 1st game, I took you out fast." I said, "No, you got me down to 2, and then I had my 4th Force of Will when you tried to Kervik's Spite." Oh. He eventually nodded and fixed our match slip. The guy tried to intimidate me, but not today. Anyway, I went on that day to take the 3rd seed in top 8 at regionals, and so I won a spot at nationals that July. And as an interesting side note, and perhaps my first danecdote, after the tournament, when the other top 8 finalists and I sat around dividing up the prizes, one of the other Big Blue players, and there were a number of us, mentioned that they had prepared for the mirror match by putting Dan Dan in their sideboard. Yeah, Dan Dan! A 4/1 for 2 mana that could attack blue players quickly and easily. Even though I never faced the mirror match, and I don't think my deck would have feared Dan Dan very much due to the Firewalker's Quicksands and Walls of Error I was toting. As the creator of the Forgetful Fish Dan Dan variant, I really wish I had played Dan Dan in my sideboard regionals that day, just to be able to say I did. Well, that's the end of the Intimidator. I did have another encounter with Karavic's bite with a force of will in my hand later that summer at Nationals, but that's a story for another time. Thank you for joining me for this edition of Magic Storytime. Please join me next time where I'll relate another tale of playing Magic over the years.